What's up, guys? It's Metaphos, and I'm actually bringing a tier list video. It's been a little bit since before Nats since I made a tier list video, and the meta's changed quite a lot since then. And I figured with you know, the event, some events coming up like Remote Duel YCS, Italy, as well as Anaheim in the next month and some change, that it'd be a good time to put some out there. There's been a lot of events that happened, and yeah, let's just see some of the differences and where my head's at currently. So first we got Amaryllis. I was much higher on this going into Nats. I had it like almost breaking into S tier and tier 1. I don't have it as a top 5 deck anymore. I think its consistency issues are just like, it makes it too hard for that type of deck to win an event. There's too many hands where you have like 2 to 3 dead cards and low card activity, which is something I value a lot more these days. I'm actually going to throw it here in tier 1.5. Maybe I'll bump it later. We'll see. It's just how I feel at the moment. Valhalla Fairies. This deck just recently got top 8 at YCS Niagara and does not have many people pilot it. I still wouldn't push it up past 1.5. It might even be 2. I haven't tested enough, but just due to recent success, I think I'm going to throw it here. It probably won't be high up in the 1.5s though. Up next, yeah, I'm conceding a little bit here. I normally call this Fishborg Frog, but give this one to James. It's got Dream Frog, and yeah, I mean, it's just an S tier deck. It's been performing super well ever since its inception. Originally having only a few pilots, and now we have a lot more people play it. It won Nats, then Denny won, I think, Sacramento with it, and it's kind of just performed at most events that it's been a part of, so got to throw it up there. The inclusion of basically the reason Dream Frog's so good is because it makes Substitoad more than just a defensive tool. It now becomes like a combo piece as well as an offensive tool and a utility card. So I just think that that's like the benefit to it over like Hero Frog, let's say. Next we have Blackwing Hybrid. This got 2nd place at Nats, but hasn't done a whole lot since. There is the Marcus Hayden build that's like a true hybrid. It's not just throwing in Greffers into a Blackwing deck. So I do kind of like that. I used to be really high in this deck, but the issues I was having is if you just did, like, if your first Blackwing summon got stopped by like a bottomless, a lot of times you didn't have like the same follow-up with like a whirlwind. So it's more fragile, but it's trading that for power. It's got some good utility. I do think it's better than these 2 decks below it. I don't know if I want to throw it here. We'll throw it in 1 for now. We'll see where I end up placing it. Then we got Pure Blackwing. Deck still tier 1. I'm less high on it. I used to have it as the best deck in the format. Now I think it might be like 2nd or 3rd best. But yeah, it's just where my head's at. Then we got Chainburn. I mean, same issue with Chainburn. Really good against players who don't know how to play against it. But if you play someone who knows like how the deck functions, it's just really hard to actually burn your opponent out. So I'm going to throw this down in tier 2. I can see it eventually like top 8ing some events, but I can't really ever see it taking down an event. Next, we got the Dark Calling deck. This deck kind of has been abandoned by everyone. I used to say that I thought, you know, if someone could optimize it, that it can be pushing 1.5 or 1. Because yeah, I mean, its boss monster is just so good and you have access to a lot of good cards, but unfortunately decks, you have to play so many bad cards to justify it, and that's I'm gonna drop this down in tier 2 as well. I guess I'll have it ahead of Chainburn. I'll give it that. Next we have Disaster Dragons, and actually I'm gonna get rid of this because I mean, if it's just not played by anyone, there's just better dragon variants, so we won't even go over that. Got Diva Hero beat. This deck's kind of fallen off, but it's really well placed right now. And I thought that at Nats as well. And as like, you know, with Glad Beast being popular, Blackwings being popular. Yeah, I feel like this deck should still be a tier 1 deck. It's just not performing in that way. And until proven otherwise, I think I have to drop it down here. I will slide it ahead of the Valhalla Fairy just because I like how it's positioned, but I definitely think Amma is a better deck. Then we got Diva Hero. it's like a combo deck, but it also just in its own as a Diva Hero deck isn't performing all that great as of late. I will probably drop it down here in tier 2. I mean, you can swap these. I actually like the Valhalla deck from what I've seen, so I'm gonna leave it like this. Then we got Diva Zombie. This is probably like the least successful, like the straight Diva Zombie build out of all the zombie variants currently. They're all pretty similar in tier. I'm gonna actually put this probably at like top of tier 2. You know, some might make an argument it's tier 1.5. We'll see. Maybe I move some things around, but yeah, I just don't see why you'd opt to play it over some of the other zombie variants. This is what I thought the dragon deck was earlier. Dragon Control, Flip Dragons. I think this deck's actually still really good. I'm going to drop this here in 1.5 as well. Right here, it hasn't performed very well, but I don't think a lot of people are really piloting this deck. I think the deck's really good, and in the hands of a good player, I could definitely see this taking down an event. But yeah, until we get more minds on a deck like this, I think it probably won't break out of the 1.5. Next is Dragon Turbo. On my previous tier list, I had this as an S tier deck. I no longer do. I do think this deck's super hard to play, and only a few pilots actually invest the time and are capable of playing it. That said, I still think it's a tier 1 deck. You know, it is a little bit like high rolly at times, but I think that honestly, a lot of times people blame it on luck when honestly you could just like, there's hands you could buy yourself a better amount of time to like get through the deck, do the combo, because whenever this deck does end up doing what it wants to do, it's just unfair. I'm gonna drop it here. Chaos Fairy. This is kind of the deck I've been on lately, like the Twilight Fairy deck that Pudding had created, and I've been helping to optimize. I'm actually still really high on this deck. Call it bias. I won't go as far as putting it S tier, but I mean, I honestly, I'm super biased. I'm gonna throw it here top tier 1. The benefits of this deck is you get to drop Kristya. You play so many extenders that you aren't as normal summon reliant as a lot of other decks in the format. A lot of your extenders are removal cards as well. On top of that, you kind of search out a lot of your really busted cards via Kristya adding back from grave, via banishing anything you mill with Raikou, Lila, Charge, Recharge, Trooper, with, you know, any of your extenders, then adding it back with Dialk, or banishing off top of deck with Dialk. Like you have so many tools to access the grave and the banish zone, and the fact that the deck kind of can turbo cards to the grave, which sets up Kristya, sets up your extenders, as well as it's just really hard to like push through this deck also because they play Fader and whatnot. I think one of the things keeping this deck out of S tier is the prevalence of deck dev. So I'm going to leave it here for now, but I do think this deck, you know, lots of bias here, but I think this deck's really good. And I think honestly, we are creating more optimized versions of it every day. So next is Pure Fairy. Fairy Discord might be mad at me for this one, but I don't think this deck is very good. I mean, it's better in Chain Burn, it's better in Dark Calling. It's better than the Diva Zombie variant, but I wouldn't even put this in 1.5. It's just way too normal summon reliant. Like the trade-off is that you get to play traps, but like you're wanting your monsters to die by battle, so battle traps aren't that great for your deck. You're like best, like you don't want to clear your own cards oftentimes, so TT isn't good. So like your rationale is like, oh well, I get to play Trap, Dust Shoot, and Call the Haunted in return. Like sure, those are good cards, but you trade it off to be a normal summon deck. I just don't like it very much. I know some people argue that like, you know, the pace of the game and how hard this deck could be to play are like some of the benefits to it. But I honestly see them more as like distractions, and it's kind of like an inevitability to lose because you're like floating or hoping to float and hoping to get to Kristya, but you have to hard draw your Kristya versus like the Chaos Fairy deck. Any point you mill Kristya, you almost always have access, and then you also have like just like a lot more extension beyond your normal summon. I think that's just way too big. way too big of a factor to ignore. So gonna throw Fish OTK down here. I used to have in tier 2. I just think there's better versions of this deck, like the frog combo deck. This deck's pretty much dead. Throw Flamvell down here as well. I do think Fire Dog and Rekindling are really good cards. Unfortunately, that's about all it has going for it. Next, we have Frog Monarch. This deck's kind of had a surge in popularity again, especially there's like control variants now. I think it's pretty good, to be honest. I know a lot of them had done well recently in online events. Man, I can't push it to tier 1. I think I'm gonna throw it right here. I think that's a fair spot to put it. Next is Gemini. Nothing's changed with this deck. Still dropping in tier 3 until, you know, it starts proving me otherwise. I guess you can say the same with like Dark Calling could drop until proven otherwise. I just think this, like, the thing this deck wants to do is so much better than the thing the Gemini deck wants to do, and ultimately that's why I do that. Next is the GB combo decks, and by combo I just mean you play like Prisma, Cats, or Cat, and Test Tigers. I think this is the inferior version of GBs, to be honest, and I just think because I think of Gladiator Beast similar to how I think of Zodiac, a deck that came out in 2017, where all your monsters effectively are the same exact monster, because all of them can tutor every monster in your deck, you know what I mean? And so you really only need to see one in a lot of unsearchable cards for the deck to do what its mechanic wants to do and maximize everything around the mechanic. This is like trading off some consistency for like a higher ceiling. But the ceiling's like if your one play gets stopped, like you special Test Tiger and Tribute or whatever, and you get Oppression or anything like that, or like even just normal and normal Cat, Tribute, and I don't know, you get Bottomless on your 1600 guy, and then you're left with like a Test Tiger. Like, that sucks. Like, I don't know, I can't justify playing this over the other build. I really like the other build. Maybe that's because I don't have the hours on the combo variant, but I will say I do think Glad Beasts are up here. The pure build, I really like how the deck plays. I think it's really well positioned in the meta, and to be honest, I think the build that won New York, I think, that played the 3 Guardian Iatos, I don't think, like, that's more on the right track of how I'd play the deck. I don't know if I'd play Iatos because it's really just a beater. I don't know if that's what Glads really need for their strategy. But the way that deck played, just a bunch of normal summons, not weak to deck dev, and just a lot of utility around the Gladiator Beasts themselves. I think that's the way to play the deck. Next, we got Hero Beat Stun. I've been messing with this deck a little bit, and I'd love to put it up here, but until proven otherwise, I'm going to drop it down here. I guess it's like in the same range, to be honest. I guess it doesn't matter where I put it. Yeah, Skill Drain's awesome. There's cute tricks. Honestly, the way I play the deck is I play Chalice and Skill Drain, multiple Barbaros, and it just makes your value matchup really good playing it that way. But there's still so many concessions with the deck and so many issues that it has, so gonna leave it there. Next, we have KristyaSworn with just one. This deck just won Niagara. I honestly, when I play this deck, I think it's really good. The issue is I also think it has, like, it's just more lucky, like a luck sack type of deck, a little bit more so, or a little bit less than like a Dragon Turbo, but a little bit more so than like the Fairy Chaos deck. It's definitely in this range. I think, once again, my bias is going to show. I'm going to drop it right here. I think the deck's really stellar. Obviously, JD's busted, Kristya's busted. You play Beckoning to get it all back and reset up. It's just a completely different game plan. It's full aggro, and you're just trying to like turbo everything to grave. I just think that there's a lot of side hate for this deck, 1, and 2, it's just, it feels very casino-y if you ever play it. There's so many hands where I'm like, all right, I've just got a normal monster in mill, even though like I'm completely leaving myself in the open for, you know, a Shura to attack me or something, but it's just kind of part of the game plan. And a lot of times you can even eat that Shura and it's fine, but it's just how I feel. Lightsworn Pure, I mean, it's probably so. I used to think this deck was really stellar because it was just like consistent at doing what it wanted to do. The issue is it's just too reliant on JD. And if your opponent can prevent you from getting it or even just clearing it and having follow-up, not overcommitting the board, it's really awkward. I will put it up in 1.5 still. Probably right. I'll do it right in front of the GB combo deck. Might get some hate for that one. Next, we have Machina Control. I think this deck's really good, but it's also just tier 1.5. I have it right behind Amma. Yeah, I mean, it's probably the second best Hamster Raikou deck, in my opinion, behind Vayu. It's really busted. Machina Fortress is way beyond its time. They have a Stratos that tutors their boss monster or a way to summon their boss monster. And it also can act as protection. So, yeah, just a lot of good stuff going for the deck. It has power plays and, like, Avarice and whatnot, too. So, it also just recently won Lily, YCS Lily, or Ultimate Time Wizard Lily. So maybe that give I'm actually screw it. I'm gonna bump it up right here at top of 1.5 just because of recent results. Next we got Machina Gadget. I don't like this deck. I mean, you play the Machina cards. It's probably enough for me to put it in tier 2. Yeah, I'll put it right there. And we have Quickdraw Machines. I think this is the best Quickdraw deck. And I'll just pair it right now with Quickdraw Plants. I think this is an inferior version of the deck. I'll drop this one to tier 2 now. Yeah, the machines, I just think anything that plays the Machina cards, so specifically Quickdraw Machina. I think anything that plays the Machina cards is going to kind of boost it up because I think those cards are so busted. But yeah, I think right here is a good spot. You know, actually, I'm going to bump up Machina Control to tier 1. It did just win. I think the Machina cards are super busted. It kind of helps me layer these where we have the tier 1 Machina deck, the tier 1.5 Machina deck, and then the tier 2 Machina deck. So we'll do that. Next, 6 Sams. You know, 6 Sams, due to their Chicago monthly performance, and I like the pudding build of it, I'm going to push it to the top of tier 3. There you go. 6 Sam players, please don't kill me. WelleDad, this deck just did really well at Niagara, getting 2nd place. I actually lost to it, piloted by Bradley. I think this deck's really stellar. I'd say the one big negative in my head is that, like, you're playing, like, the psychic monsters you're playing aren't great, and then you have to get them to grave for Power Well to, like, be like crazy good, like more than just a 1-card extender. But even as a 1-card extender, it can be fine. I do think it's definitely, in my opinion, the 2nd best zombie variant. Do I want to push it up here? I think I will. I'm still not very high on it. I do like it more than Lightsworn deck. We'll put it here for now. Next, we have X-Sabers. Another fanboy pick for me. It did just win a Chicago monthly. I know it's been, like, it top 8'd Lily, so I guess I've got to give it a little more respect than, like, tier 3. It's got more results than a lot of tier 2, to be honest. I will drop X-Sabers. I like the deck a lot. I'll let my bias win this one. I'll throw it up here in front of Quickdraw Plants. Next we have the Zombie Hero deck. So this is like the Jake XO deck. Yeah, personally, I still think this is just the best zombie variant. If I were to play one, this is the one I'd play. I honestly would have it like at the top of 1.5. Man, I feel like I'm really disrespecting Amaryllis with this list. You know, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop Zombie Hero here, but I do think Amma's slightly better than it. So we're going to do that. And it helps layer out our list a little bit. So I like that one. Next, we got Vayu Turbo. No surprise here. Going to drop this up here. Yeah, I think the deck's busted. Actually, I'm going to slide it ahead of Dream Frogs. I think I had this as the third best deck going into Nats. I've definitely changed my tune. I think the innovation of the main deck devs makes this deck super scary. And then the decks you are more worried about, because like Blackwing was already like a mildly favorable matchup. But the decks you're worried about, like deck dev kind of cooks, and a lot of people are now maining like 1 or even 2. Like Eric just top 8'd Niagara maining 2, and I know it won online, like the Virus Vayu deck. And I'm kind of bundling that into 1 here, but I'm going to put that at top S tier for now. Next, we got Hero Frog, and I think this is the best deck of the format. Currently, I do think that the inclusion of viruses kind of hurts Dream Frog a lot more than Hero Frog, because Hero Frog, believe it or not, doesn't play a crazy amount of targets, and if you go first, especially if you see subs or swap, you're thinning a lot of those targets. So I think it's more resilient to that. But in general, I just think doing what it wants to do every game, and if it sees both engines, it's like definitely the best deck. But even when it doesn't, it still just would be an S tier deck. So I'm gonna leave it up there. Next we got, this has been rising in popularity, Lightsworn. I think this is the best version of I lied. KristyaSworn is definitely the best version, but I think this is like it does a lot of good things, I guess, especially the versions that are playing Vayu. It just kind of does a lot of busted stuff. I'm gonna throw it here at top 1.5. I just like what it's been doing as of late. You know, maybe it's just recency bias and it's not as good as I'm thinking it is, but that's where I'm gonna place it. I think the deck is really stellar. Would not be surprised if it tops tournament or even wins one, for that matter. And then lastly for the tier list, I think that might be oh no, I lied. We have Instant Zombie, similar to the Diva Zombie deck. I don't think this is the best variant to play. I'll put it right ahead. It's kind of in the same ballpark. But yeah, this is my current tier list going into the YCS in Italy, the remote YCS, and YCS Anaheim. Let me know what you guys think. What decks you think should move up, what decks you think should move down. Leave a comment, and appreciate the love, guys. Peace out.